Hogstye.
Hey everybody, welcome to the post-game show. It's the Hogstye. Well, we'll just say Washington started out strong, but ultimately their conservative play calling on offense and the lack of depth on that defense, it was just too much, and they ended up losing a bad one here to the Eagles. Not unexpected. I think we all kind of knew with all these people out for COVID and all these injuries, this was not going to go our way, but still a heartbreaker because you hate to lose to Philadelphia in anything in life because it's Philadelphia, the ultimate second-rate city on the East
It's
Coast.
Satan's toilet bowl.
Yes.
Alex.
Yes. Satan's toilet bowl for the East Coast. It's no Corpus Christi.
I would say LA would be Satan's principal bathroom, fun. But
it's also kind of if you drew the US as like an animal, that is kind of where the butt is LA. So there's that too.
True. But regardless,
yes, regardless, I do want to say before we get really into the show, Garrett Gilbert, thank you for your service. You know what? For a guy who just wandered onto a field and played some football, you did a good job. So thank you. Dirty Sanchez, he kept on talking the whole time about that time he tried to do this for the Washington football team and how he promptly shat his own pants because he doesn't know how to play football. He's not a good quarterback.
I don't think that game went very well, if I recall.
It did not. It might be more embarrassing than the time Mark Sanchez shoved his head up his own center's butt.
On the famous butt fumble play?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So Double G didn't do that. So I want to say thank you. Good luck going back to the Patriots because I assume that's what's going to happen. You're probably not going to be here next week.
I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's kind of what I'm expecting. All right, let's get into this. It's just Steve and I, Hogstye Late Night.
These are always fun. The Hogstye Late Night for losing games are the best.
Yeah. They're, because, you're already depressed and you're already tired. And this is a weird one because tomorrow's Wednesday. Like, it's the middle of the work week. This is going to be awful. Just an awful, awful week.
All right, let's just jump into it. Here's the stats. Yep. Garrett Gilbert was 20 for 31 for 194 yards, 6.3 yards per attempt, sacked twice, quarterback rating of 81.9, no touchdowns, no receptions. Antonio Gibson, better known as, the Jim Brown of the NFL, it was 15 for 26 for 1.7 yards per attempt, long of 8. Jarrett Patterson was 4 for 20. DeAndre Carter on his one carry, which is a reverse, was 1 for 12. Jonathan Williams 1 for 5. Honestly, I didn't even notice Jonathan Williams get one carry. Terry McLaurin was the leading receiver for Washington, 2 for 51 and 4 targets. Antonio Gibson was 6 for 39. John Bates 1 for 29. Ricky Seals-Jones 4 for 29. And Adam Humphries 3 for 23. Cam Sims for some reason only had one target. I'll never understand this. 13 yards. DeAndre Carter 2 for 12. Dax Milne 1 for -2. And then on this is where it gets ugly. The Eagles side, Jalen Hurts, 20 for 26, 296 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, sacked 3 times, quarterback rating of 110.4. Miles Sanders, 18 for 131, average 7.3 yards per attempt. Jordan Howard, 15 for 69. Jalen Hurts, 8 for 38. For those wondering, that's 238 yards. I was rooting for an even 250 personally. I was hoping they were going to get there. Dallas Goedert, better known as the bane of Washington's existence, 7 for 135. Because remember, he had a game like this last year, too, if you all recall.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, Jalen Reagor, 3 for 57. Devontae Smith, 3 for 40. And it goes down from there. I don't feel like reading the rest of that. So sacks. Washington did have 3 sacks. Yes. Jonathan Allen had one on a play that should have been a face mask. Bunmi Rotimi got one, and Montez Sweat got one. And so here's the big question of the day. As always, you know what's coming. Did Tressway outpunt the entire Washington offense? Alex?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no this week. I think it's close, but I think it's a no.
It is very close. I'll grant you that. And I'll actually say that, drum roll please, he did outpunt the entire Washington offense.
Oh, he did.
Yes, From a net passing yards, he did. Because there's a
Okay.
difference between Garrett Gilbert had 194 yards passing, but the net was 174. You have to take that into account.
Oh.
So the net passing yards was 230, or the net yards was 237, and Tress Way was 5 for 240. So I'm giving this one to Tress.
Yeah,
Congratulations,
yeah,
Tress.
okay. No, those are the rules that
Yes,
he won that fair and square by 3. So,
right, fair and square. Now, of course, did Tress Way outpunt the Philadelphia rushing attack?
no.
Well, they had 238 yards, so he barely beat him.
Oh, okay. 230. Dang
Yeah.
it. All right.
And the other thing I'd like to point out is DeAndre Carter had 2 kickoff returns for 67 yards, including that one that was 47 whatever yards got
Yeah,
called
the one that
back.
got called back.
Yeah, that does not
Which,
include that.
by the way, that didn't look like it should have been called back. Just my opinion.
I don't like. I'm gotten to a point where I don't like any holding calls, and I just think they're all dumb. And like that one wasn't really holding. I guess it was I mean, it was who was it? Was it Eric Flowers?
Yeah,
I
I
can't.
think so.
Anyway,
He kind of just hit a guy. It was
wasn't Eric Flowers. I'm totally wrong about that. But yeah, I thought it was dumb. So
yeah.
anyway, that's stats. Where do you want to start with this game?
I want to start talking about the defense honestly because I think we'll get through them quicker. Look, you're down some guys. You have no depth, especially on the defensive line here at this point. So I get there are issues when that happens. But there's also a scheme problem when you know this is a run first team and you don't really adjust how you play defense for this game. In my opinion, I didn't see a lot of 3 linebackers in there. It still seems like they're pretty much just playing their normal 4-2 or 5-2 defense the whole time.
Here's the problem, though. That would work if Philadelphia did not have receiving targets, but they had a dude who is called a tight end who had
Right.
135 yards receiving.
Yeah.
So they can't exactly stack the box. They were already giving up big yardage in the air.
Somebody posted this on Twitter, and I thought it was rather funny, where they said, if you are a white dude with a little bit above average athleticism and you can play tight end in the NFL, just go to the NFC East. You will feast against Washington 2 games a year. Because that's been the truth for the last 2 decades.
How many tight ends has Dallas and the Eagles combined have that just like burned, completely torched Washington for years, decades at this point?
I mean, do you want us to go through the list?
No, I don't really. No, I don't. It was a rhetorical question.
Yeah,
because there's been a bunch of them.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Defensively, I mean, the obvious is that they just let the Philadelphia rushing attack get totally out of control. I mean,
Yes.
7.3 yards per attempt for Miles Sanders. And if you want to
Absurd.
break this down by quarter, because I always find this interesting, it was really the third quarter that he went nuts. He was 6 for
no
20.
Question about that.
Yeah, 6 for 27 in the first quarter, 13 for 69 at halftime. And yes, that's over 5 yards per carry. But by the end of the third quarter, he was 18 for 131 yards. And that was mainly because he had one 38-yard run, but he had a series of like 10-yard runs. And at one point, it just looked like the defensive line was getting absolutely manhandled by a mediocre offensive line.
That opening drive on the second quarter or third quarter, second half. I don't even think Washington came out to play there. Like, I don't even know who was there. I don't know who was doing what. They could have just been standing there like, foosball guys. Like they just didn't do anything to stop them. It was absurd.
They just got manhandled. It's as simple as that. I mean, it was yes, Miles Sanders is a good running back, but he was running through lanes that you could drive a truck through some of those holes.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, obviously Washington's linebackers are lacking, but I mean, come on, isn't the defensive front supposed to be the strength of the team? In newsflash, they were all back from their coronavirus, hiatus. So there's no excuse there, really. They just got manhandled.
Payne was there, Allen was there, Ioannidis was there, and they were all out on the field. I'll be very curious to see what the snap counts were for those guys, because it felt like those 3 were probably out there, I would say 70% of the time.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they should be out there that long.
Yeah, but all 3, It's a lot to
Well,
use
and
three
and
guys like that.
remember, I mean, Daniel Wise went out with an injury and did not come back, so that's
True,
depth.
true, true.
And then
Yeah, there's that factor.
and then Casey Toohill went out at 1.2. Oh, by the way, the rest of the injuries, it wasn't exactly a good injury day either because William Jackson and Landon Collins both went out, and neither one of them came back.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
not good. We'll wait till tomorrow to see what becomes of that. But yeah, I mean, defense. The problem. I get what you're saying, but in a better defense, maybe that would have worked to say, look, you know, Jalen Hurts is going to have to beat us with his arm.
right.
The problem is, of course, he did that, and they also beat us on the ground.
Yeah.
They just couldn't do anything.
No,
It was a
they
terrible
were.
display of defense by
It
Washington.
was. And look, I think this week has probably been rough on the whole team. I don't doubt that. Like even if you're just gonna say, well, they didn't get to practice like they normally did, that's not good. That messes with the team's rhythm quite a bit. But yeah, it was just a poor showing defensively overall.
But like you
Um,
said, it's like you knew what Philadelphia is.
hmm
You knew that they were the number one rushing defenses or offenses measured by yardage in the league. You knew
Right.
that Jalen Hurts was a huge part of it. Um, and yet I was just amazed that this line full of first round draft picks and high draft picks
hmm
just got absolutely manhandled inside, in the interior, and on the edge, both. I thought it was an embarrassing game. By far the defense's worst game of the year, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing that frustrates me. Look, the read option's tough. I think we all know, like, this kind of 11 on 11 football that Philly's playing can be very tough, but there is a way to kind of compensate against it. And we even saw that happen under Jay Gruden and my Greg Minuski. Greg Minuski was actually pretty good at defending this kind of game because he would just teach his guys how to play some kind of assignment read and react football, and that kind of compensates versus the 11 on 11 thing quite a bit. These guys weren't doing that at all, it felt like.
No.
Like your outside guy needs to know he's got to stay outside. Regardless of who he thinks has the ball, you go after the outside player. And they were biting all the time on things. It was driving me nuts.
No, I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. I mean, that's the way you play it. That's the way they didn't play
Right.
it.
If me, a guy who's never played football at any serious level, can understand that that's how you play this kind of football, what's going on?
I just think, well, one, their utter lack of talent at the linebacker position is a big negative. You
That
throw like a
sure.
Micah Parsons back there, who's a real playmaker and
hmm
athletic and all that, and yes, it would make a difference. Cole Holcomb, we love Cole Holcomb. He's got a great haircut, um, and he's probably the best we have now, but that doesn't mean he's significantly above average by NFL standards. And
No.
Jamin Davis is just there.
Holcomb
You
has
know.
this one thing that's good about him where I trust him to still play hard through four quarters. Like that's his best feature,
Yes.
frankly. He's a hard player. I give him that.
He's kind
He's
of
not
Will
elite.
Compton, and I don't mean just because he's a white linebacker.
Right.
I mean he's another guy who lacks athleticism, lacks elite level talent, but he's a high effort, high motor guy, which is sort of what Will Compton
Right.
was. So in that regard, put aside the fact that they're both white,
Right.
he reminds me of Will Compton a little bit in that regard.
They both can't really get out of first gear, but they can go first gear for a long time.
Yeah, they don't have a second gear, but yeah,
Right.
they're high
Exactly.
effort, high intensity player.
Right.
And by the
And
way, tackles wise,
mhm.
Jeremy Reeves 12 tackles. That's never good when your safety is the leading tackler.
When your
Cole Holcomb,
safety who just this is his first game all year. Yeah.
yeah, and he's your leading tackler. And then Cole Holcomb and Jamin Davis actually both had 10 tackles, amazingly enough. So
Well, can we talk about the Jeremy Reeves thing for a minute?
sure.
Because I think a lot of fans are big on Jeremy Reeves, right? Like I am. I thought last year he played really well. Why is
Sure.
it taking this long for them to put him back on the roster? You have to wonder that.
Well, I mean, the problem is you've got a dude making a ton of money at strong safety, and then you've got Cam Curl
Mhm.
at the other safety, and so what are they going to do? Bring a practice squad guy in to bench one of the two of them, or or take a spot away from DeShazier Everett, who's a key on special teams?
I
There's only
understand that,
limited number of safeties that they can put on the roster.
but you understand my question still at the same time, right? Like if you were to say who are your 52 best guys, he's in that list before some of these other guys on defense. I
Possibly,
understand we have
but
a glut of good safeties, or maybe not good. I think Reeves is better than Collins, but like you said, the money.
Reeves isn't better than Collins.
You don't think so?
No.
I think
People
he's
underrate
faster. I think
Landon
he's more
Collins.
athletic.
When you use Landon Collins appropriately, there's a reason he went to multiple Pro Bowls. When he's
Okay, that's
used
fair.
properly, Landon Collins is an elite player. Just he hasn't been used properly, and he's had a bad.
You mean when you play him at linebacker?
You call it what you want. I mean, I've been saying that since the day he got here.
Yeah, I know. I know.
But that in the box,
Right.
roving viper, whatever you want to call it, that's what he does, and he's very good at that. And
He
by the way,
calls himself a hybrid now.
yeah,
Whatever
you want to call him. And by the way, that interception was like the luckiest interception I've ever seen in my entire life. Good, congrats to him for picking it off.
Right.
But when it bounces off somebody's heel right to you, that's just, man, that's luck.
I've watched a lot of football games. I probably few thousand probably in my life. You know, you're probably a little more, because you're a couple of years older than me. But let's just say we both have watched 1,000 football games in our life. Have you ever seen anyone catch a ball off somebody's heel? No.
I've never seen it careen, through somebody's hands off a heel directly to someone else. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't think so.
Let's say 2,000 games, never seen that. So, that's always nice when you get something new.
Yeah. But look, this defense needs a tremendous amount of help.
Yeah.
I think this defensive front seven has underperformed, and frankly, they haven't. This is what I feared last year too. This year they have not faced an elite rushing team.
Mm-hmm.
They really haven't, other than maybe Dallas last week. And that Dallas was without Tony Pollard. Obviously, the Eagles are an elite rushing team, and they ran all over them.
Yeah.
I just don't think that this defensive front is all it's cracked up to be when it comes to the run, because I keep seeing them get beaten by good teams good running teams over and over and over again.
For how much they have invested in the front seven, it's kind of absurd.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, from a relative standpoint, considering they have all these, first round draft picks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Steve, we should switch sides, talk about the offense. But before we do that, we have some important information to give our listeners here.
Yes.
And you're going to do the read this time, which is a first, I think.
Because Alex is tired because it's a late night, and Alex does not like Hogstye late night.
I do not. I should be asleep by now.
But what are we talking about? We're talking about DraftKings. Yay.
Yay, sponsors.
It's Christmas weekend. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, has a gift that'll certainly put you in the holiday spirit. New customers can bet just $5 on any NBA team and win $150 in free bets if they're victorious. It's a great way to put some jingle in your pocket. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, your Christmas can still be merry. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Basketball Contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code HOGSTY, and that's HOGSTY with no space, by the way. AHOGSTY. Bet just $5 on any NBA team and win $150 in free bets if they're victorious. That's promo code HOGSTY this Christmas week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. You must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And just what I'll throw in here is that Christmas Day is the biggest NBA regular season day of the year, so this is a great time to bet on the NBA if you're so inclined. So go see DraftKings.
Yes. Steve and I were talking about that. There are NFL games too on Christmas Day, I believe, this year. So you could bet on both. I think DraftKings isn't going to tell you can't bet on the NFL. Yeah,
they'll take your money for NFL bets too. So do that if you want.
If you want to do NFL, you want to do NBA. If you want to do professional darts like our buddy Rick Snyder, I think he'll bet on professional darts over the holidays.
He's the only one I know who knows anything about professional darts.
Right.
Alex is not making this up. He does know professional darts.
I went out to lunch with Rick before the pandemic, and he talked about professional darts for about 20 minutes.
Did he really?
Yeah. He was really enjoying his professional darts at that point.
Good for him. Everybody has to have a hobby.
Yeah. Hey,
For,
look, I can't judge people for the weird things they like.
and
So
for us, it's running an entire business in our off time. And for
right,
Rick, it
a
starts.
weird sports blog podcast. That's our hobby. That's fine. And I
Exactly.
paint. I have multiple hobbies. I collect hobbies.
And I
That's
pretend to be Eddie Van Halen. That's the other thing I do.
yeah,
I
yeah,
try.
exactly. All right, let's talk about the offense
Oh God.
as we change gears here. I said it at the top of the show. Give Double G some credit here. To come into a team 4 days to practice, that stat line, what he did, that's as much as I think you could reasonably ask from any quarterback. You know,
Oh, I think so. He didn't do too bad. Look, the problem with this offense was not him.
no,
No, was he Tom Brady? No, but hey, he did a decent job considering he had exactly 4 days.
right,
He was signed. Don't forget, he was signed on Friday, like mid morning. They talked about on the broadcast how he was like giving his daughter a bath or something, and his wife came in and said, "You've missed
yeah,
20 phone calls.
oh yeah, yeah,
Get here to Washington ASAP." Yeah, no, look, the problem is this: Washington is a running team that sucks at running. That's the
yes,
problem. Okay, fundamentally, that's been the problem all year. Today, the offensive line was a train wreck.
yeah. It's been that way
Total
for a
train
little
wreck.
while now. We've talked
Yes.
about that.
Yeah, I mean, and look who they had starting. I mean, for God's sakes, you had Keith Ishmael, who's what is he? Did we decide the fourth string? He's the third string.
No,
I
four.
forget.
We
He's the
decided
fourth.
four.
Okay, and then the right guard was Sadiq Charles, who's a failed tackle.
Hmm.
You know, and then Sam Cosmi's a rookie who hasn't played in what a month or whatever.
Right.
However it's been. I mean, they were a train wreck, and
Now, I will say, for a guy coming off that kind of, time out, Cosme played pretty good, I thought. He got blown up on one play by Fletcher Cox, but that's Fletcher Cox. Like, I'm not going to be too mad about this guy getting
well, I think
beaten
they're
by.
better at pass pro than they are at run blocking.
They
They're
might
just
be. They might be. They're not great at either, but they're at least better at that. Yeah.
But look at these. I mean, Antonio Gibson averaged 1.7 yards per carry.
Oof.
Jared Patterson, yes, had 5, but he only had 4 carries. So it's hard to have, and one of them was 13-yard carry. It's hard to
Hmm.
say that has any sort of statistical relevance. This team is a running team that cannot run the ball.
No. And I think the other thing that's frustrating about this team is so many, and you saw it in this game. Their plays are so dependent on motion at this point that teams are getting a huge jump on the snap. There were, I counted at least 3 plays where it almost looked like the defense was offsides, and they weren't, but they just saw, oh, this guy's in motion. As soon as he crosses the quarterback, that's when it's going to get snapped, and I'm going to jump. Like you saw that a couple times this week. Uh, and look, I'm critical of Scott Turner for a bunch of reasons, but there's a predictability thing with this team that really, and that has nothing to do with, oh, you're on your third quarterback or fourth quarterback.
Well, I mean, today it did. Because what are they going to do? Open the offense up with Garrett Gilbert back there, who's had like 5 minutes of practice time. So
I
today
mean, you
they
could,
had to run the ball, and they just couldn't do it.
yeah, well, look, that's part of it too, but there are things that have nothing to do with Gilbert that, were clear with the predictability factor here, you know. So
I mean, it's yes,
it's second
and
down and long. They're going to run a draw play. They do it about 70% of the time,
they
regardless.
do.
Yeah.
They do, and they're just not very good at it. And I mean, Antonio Gibson, I don't know if he's still dealing with this shin injury,
They
but
say he
at
has a
some
toe
point,
injury now. Yeah.
there's excuses or
Yeah.
just excuses, and he just hasn't produced this year. And yes, today it was certainly the offensive line, but it hadn't always been the offensive line this year. But today they really need to get a running game established. They just obviously utterly couldn't do it at all. You take away DeAndre Carter's, one run on that reverse, and then you're down to 20 carries for uh, 51 yards
Yeah.
as a team, which is
That's
just
not good.
atrocious. Yeah, that's
No.
atrocious.
Well, and we talked about this maybe last show or maybe the 2 or 3 back. How Heineke really is the only reason they've had a decent running game because he
Yes.
can scramble, and Garrett Gilbert is not a runner like that. So
No,
Yeah.
and we probably should have anticipated it would have been Gilbert that they were going to bring in. Truthfully, because he was with Carolina for a year. If had any of us thought about it, we probably would have realized this.
Mm.
Um, and listen, and by the way, I mean, there's no guarantees not back there still next week. I mean, they still need to get Kyle Allen or Tyler Heineke out of Corona jail, and who
Yeah.
knows what the status of that is.
Hmm.
We really don't know. I mean, presumably they're going to get out of it because none of these guys are actually sick, and they're just testing positive. So, assuming presumably they'll get out of jail, but they only have 5 days left.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
we got a quick turnaround. You and I were talking about when do we want to do the next show because
yeah.
this is normally we'd do it, Wednesday, and that's just not even enough time to get
Wednesday would
ready.
be tomorrow, right?
Yeah, yeah. Wednesday would be today because people are listening this morning.
That's true. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So guys, be ready. You might have to listen to the show on Christmas Eve. So sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, it's just the way it is. But in terms of other things, I mean, Terry McLaurin had the one big catch, but he only
Nice
had
throw
four.
there. That was a
It
really
was a
nice
very
throw.
nice throw. It was a little behind, but
Mm,
again, what can you expect? Because when your quarterback's Garrett Gilbert,
right.
only had 4 targets, but there just wasn't a ton of opportunity in this game. I mean, Washington had a total of 11 drives, including the one at the end there, which wasn't a real drive, and they
Right.
punted 5 times, and there were multiple 3-and-outs. So there just wasn't a lot of opportunity, for the receiving corps as a whole. Can I ask you one question? Why isn't Cam Sims playing more? I
I
don't understand it.
I don't understand it either. Cam Sims is nothing but a nice big target. You would think that he would be valuable to any of these quarterbacks who, like Heineke's, as a small guy who throws high. You'd think having a receiver who's like 6'6" would help.
You'd
Or
think.
yeah, and Sims is nothing but a hard worker. I don't understand it. They're in
He's
love
got,
with these like little guys who they think are like scat back receivers or whatever, and none of them are working out.
I mean, is Adam Humphries something special?
No, of
No,
course not.
he's not. He's an average player. DeAndre Carter, we like him, but he's good in small doses.
Right.
Dax Milne is a rookie who's barely producing.
Hmm.
And Curtis Samuel is not there at all ever. So I just don't understand how it is that
But
Cam Sims, who's their second best receiver, I think, behind obviously McLaurin, I don't know why he's not out there all the time.
you look at Samuel, you look at Brown, less so Humphreys, but Dax Millen definitely. This is a type that I think this team is drawn to in terms of their scouting style.
Yeah.
They love these little slot guys, and none of them are working out because I don't think they're utilized properly. But
I just
that
don't
that
think some of them have a lot of talent. Adam Humphries
there's
is
that too.
average.
There's also a lot of that too, a lack of
De'Ami
talent.
Brown didn't even get a target today.
Yeah,
Is he on? He might be on the Chrono list. I've forgotten
I honestly
at this
don't even
point.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, but point is he didn't get a target. He's a rookie.
Hmm.
I just don't. I really just I don't get it. I've said my piece. I guess that's
No,
enough.
I'm with you. Look, I've always been a big Cam Sims guy. How many times have I like tried to talk to Cam Sims at training camp? Like
And it
I'm
took a
always a
little
Cam.
10-year-old to get the interview
Well, and I look like one, even though I'm a normal height. He's just that big.
because that kid got the Cam Sims interview you couldn't get.
I got one. I definitely got one. I don't remember if I got more
Did
than
you?
one. Yes.
Hopefully, we'll be back there next year after all this nonsense settles down.
Yeah, I hope
But
so. I
what
miss
else on
going to camp.
offense? Yeah, like Gilbert looked like an NFL quarterback, and
Right.
considering the situation, I think that's about all we could really realistically ask.
Mm-hmm.
He looked like he knew what he was doing,
Yeah.
and part of that is because he spent an entire season in Carolina's offense. So he did. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't on the tip of his tongue, but he was fairly familiar with it. He didn't look lost. He didn't look shell shocked. He didn't look like he was his first day, at math camp or something. I
Right.
mean, it was, he looked like an NFL quarterback, and that's about all we could expect, I thought.
All right. I got a Gilbert question for you. Some little trivia
Okay.
question.
Okay.
All right. He last played like full time in the Alliance of American Football, 2019.
Okay.
He played for Orlando. Who was his coach? It's a well-known coach.
Oh, I should know this. Oh,
Do you need a
God.
hint?
Go ahead.
He
Give me a hint.
coached here for 2 years.
Coached here for 2 years?
Yep, in Washington.
Is this something I'm going to be mad at myself for not getting?
I don't know if you'll be mad.
Go ahead. Just tell me. I could guess.
Spurrier. Steve Spurrier was his
Lord.
coach.
And
Yeah.
yet he still knows how to play football. It's amazing.
yeah. Well, yet he doesn't have PTSD from getting sacked 100 times. The old Steve Spurrier chuck and duck offense, man.
I just told a coworker of mine today that he was talking about Steve Spurrier's. The conversation started with, "Gosh, Urban Meyer sucks as a coach," and the guy brought up Steve Spurrier, and I said, don't ever forget that Steve Spurrier resigned from the team from a golf course. Yes. That ought to tell you all about. It tells you everything you need to know about who Steve Spurrier was as a coach.
I did some fun, and I posted them on our Twitter. I'd have to go back and look at the exact numbers. How bad was Urban Meyer as a head coach? He's something like the 60th worst head coach in NFL history. Like he's his win-loss record. All that stuff.
But I mean, you got to take sample size into account, though.
I did. I got rid of all the guys who coached less than 10 games.
Yeah, but he's only coached about 10 games, though.
He coached 13 games, yes.
13 games?
Yeah.
Regardless, I would maybe argue with you about the effectiveness of that stat given the sample size, but there's no doubt Urban Meyer sucks. We can all agree on that.
And who could have seen it coming?
Yeah, everybody.
Everyone. Yes.
And he's a lousy human being, too, on top of that.
And he also looks like he's always, smelling a fart. Like, he just has that resting, someone farted in my face look.
And he kicked his kicker.
And he kicked Who kicks their own player? Ever?
Think about, that's like, it's a major workplace employer-employee problem. But anyway, back to this game, because we're rambling.
Sorry, yes, we got sidetracked.
Yeah, look, like I said, I think the bottom line to this game was that the offensive line was a train wreck, and the running team that is Washington could not run the ball at all. Like they basically haven't all year, which is why they are. What is the record now? 6-9, right? Or is it 6-8? 6-8. If they could run the ball at all, they would not be 6-8.
They might be 8-6 instead.
Yeah, they would have won a couple of these games.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we're gonna look back on the season and say there's a couple we could have probably stolen here, but this one I don't think will be on that list in the end, just because there's still something like 30 guys out from the roster. It's insane.
I mean, the 10 points in the first quarter were a gift from a crazy interception that it was a miracle. And then
a great strip sack by Montez. Yeah,
right. And so they were both deep in Eagles territory. So those points were a gift. The truth of the matter is they really only had one decent drive the entire game.
Yeah, they did.
That's the truth of the matter. You shouldn't have expected too much more than. I think you and I were both pretty close for final scores. We said something like 24-17, something like that, I think.
Yeah. I think we actually were both in the 27-28 range, so we were both right around there.
We were pretty close.
Yeah.
So we expected this. It went pretty much like I expected, because I don't expect this team to be able to run the ball anymore, because they cannot run the ball. Taylor Heineke can run the ball, and that's it.
Right. And they
need to find a running back in the draft. They really do.
I wouldn't look. It's a weak quarterback class. I would not be upset if they took a running back fairly high in this draft.
I don't even know if there is one. I wouldn't, or not. But yeah, I wouldn't be upset either.
Yeah.
I don't know who that could be. I haven't even started that process yet.
Now, of course, that said, no one drafts a running back in the first round unless they're insane nowadays, right?
But now that we're officially in garbage time for the season, I might go ahead and start my draft process.
Yep. That's something we're going to both be doing, I think. All right, Steve, you want to give out a game ball or two and we'll get out of here?
Okay. Oh, God.
Did you do it last week or did I go last week?
I think I made you go first last week, so I'll go this week. Okay. This is another tough one, because obviously nobody really deserves a game ball.
No.
All right. Oh, God. I'm going to give Garrett Gilbert an offensive game ball. because the man did come in here in a very tough situation and
Mhm.
look like a legitimate NFL quarterback, and he was given no help at all other than Terry McLaurin making a great catch. That was about the only help he got the entire game. So, congrats on you lost, but you put up a valiant effort on your part. So, congrats to him. And on defense, look, Miles Sanders gets the defensive game ball. I'm sorry. I mean, you ran for 131 yards on a defense that fancies itself one of the better run defenses in the league. You ran all over Washington. You made them look silly. The defensive front seven totally failed. I was gonna maybe give it to Landon Collins because he got a crazy interception, but he didn't play half the game, more than half the game because of his injury. So, look, I think Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne need to go present the defensive game ball award to Miles Sanders in the Philadelphia locker room in front of the players.
All right, so on defense, I'm going to start on defense, and I am going to go Landon Collins because not only did he get the interception, but remember he recovered the fumble as
Right.
well. So I always kind of fumble recovery is like a half turnover because somebody's got to cause it for you to get it. So
He made a good play on the recovery, and then he fumbled it, of course, at the end. But
I think he was down there anyway. It would have been fine, but still. So he gets 1.5 turnovers. He played well. So I'm going to give him my defensive one. On offense, I'm going to.
It's tough on offense, isn't it?
It is. Gilbert's probably the right call, like you said. Just valiant effort to come in with little to no time, and at least put up a decent fight. So I'm probably with you there. And then whatever the opposite of game ball is, I want to give that to whoever decided, hey, we're going to do what Dallas did to us last week and bring our benches. Like
Washington bring their benches. I didn't even notice
they
that.
did. You know how Dallas did that last week? Washington ripped it off and did it this week.
What's the point? I don't get it.
Right. Look, it's one thing if you come up with a new idea, but when you copy this idea and you have no shot at winning this.
Although to be fair, it's a lot easier to drag benches from, throw them on the back of a truck and drive up I-95 than it is to put them on an airplane.
Yes, sure. But just leave the benches in Philly. I mean, they have your stupid temporary name all over them. Like, you're going to need new benches next year anyway. Just leave them there. Don't bring them back.
They don't deserve to come home after this performance.
Right, exactly.
They didn't eat the butts of the players well enough to deserve to come home.
Yeah, tell the guy who drove the U-Haul, thanks. Hang out in Philly for a night. Go to Jim's or something. Have a cheesesteak.
Exactly. Have a cheesesteak on us.
Yeah. Oh, no. You think Dan Snyder's going to give you free money?
No, hell no. Yeah, Dan Snyder's going to make you pay for your own cheesesteak.
Yeah, it's BYO cheese. All right, guys. I think that wraps us up for this week's show. We will be back on, Friday morning for you all. We'll record on Thursday night, I think is our plan. We'll be back Friday. I'll probably be, on the road by the time I post this, heading up to my family's house. But I hope you all have a good Christmas because we won't talk to you till, after the Christmas holiday. Hope you guys get something you want under the tree there, or your kids get something they want under the tree and you just get left alone because those are your two options.
That's what most fathers would want.
Exactly. All right, guys. Merry Christmas.
Is Hanukkah